welcome back to Kindle's Reading Diaries. So today I'm going to be talking about my August reading wrap-up and also my September TBR. So far in August I have read 6 books, well 5 books and an audiobook, and then in September I don't want to set too high of a reading goal because I don't want to get like stressed out. So currently my September TBR is 6 books. I'm going to try to meet the same amount that I read this month. We'll see if I accomplish that, especially with holidays and all that stuff coming up. But yeah, I'm just super excited and let's get started. So to start, I'm going to be talking about my August wrap-up. The first book I read this month is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars, maybe a 4.5 out of 5 stars, I can't remember. I already have a more in-depth review. It was, I'll put it up above, but it's my book and movie review. And so if you're curious about that, go click on that. I put timestamps in it. So if you only really want to watch the book review, I totally understand, and you can go to that. Or if you're just curious about the movie, you can go to that as well. Yeah, I really love the book. I liked it better on the reread. And yeah, that's all I'll say about it for now. The second book I read this month is The Dixon Rule by Elle Kennedy. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I find that like a lot of the books I read this month were like a 4 out of 5 stars, but it's because they're not like 5-star territory, like I wasn't obsessed with them, but they are really good. I possibly would reread them again, so that's why they're 4 stars. With this book, it's about a girl named Diana Dixon. Diana Dixon lives in her late aunt's apartment complex. Diana has been living there mostly peacefully until Shane Lindley moves in next door. Now, Shane has a reputation because Diana is the captain of her cheerleading squad. Well, Diana doesn't like Shane because her cheerleaders tell her how Shane is such a bad guy, how Shane never texts them back, and how he just sleeps with them and uses them, and that he doesn't care about them after, right? So Diana doesn't think highly of Shane. So when he moves in next door, she's like, don't like this guy. He's messed with my team, all this stuff, right? So after he moves in, she goes up to him and she's like, look, Shane, if you're living here, you need to go by my rules. And so she gives him a bunch of rules to follow. What she doesn't realize is that Shane isn't the F-boy that she thinks he is. If you like any of the other off-campus books or any book that really Elle Kennedy has ever written, you'll like it. It's just like those. Like if you like The Graham Effect too, that was the one that she published before this, I loved it. I gave that one a 5 out of 5 stars, and this one is pretty close to that one too, so I highly recommend. So the next 2 I read are library books, so I don't have them with me right now because I already returned them. The book I read after Dixon Rule was The Inmate by Freda McFadden, I think is how you say her name. Initially, I gave this book, y'all, I gave this book a 3.5. That's what I was thinking. Like up until the last few chapters, I was like, or like the last chapter in the book, actually. I was like, this book's a 3.5. They include something in the last chapter that immediately sent it to a 4-star for me. It was really like, I was like, no way. Like, I don't know. I just really liked it. The Inmate is a thriller. I'm pretty sure it's a thriller. I didn't really get like horror vibes from it, even though like murders do take place. It seemed more suspenseful than like horror. So it's about a girl named Brooke Sullivan. She moves back home with her son after her parents pass away because her parents left the house for her to sell, but she decides to keep it and move back home. However, when she's moving back home, she calls for jobs, and the only job she can get is as a nurse practitioner in a maximum male prison, right? Not only that, this prison has an inmate who is the father of her child and the man that she put in prison for trying to murder her. That's the prison she's working at. She thought this was the guy that was trying to kill her. But after moving back home, she's not sure if she put the right man in prison. Like, I was eating this up. I finished this in almost one sitting. It was like a sitting and a half. Like, it was so good because you can never tell who it was. You never knew who it was. I really liked it. It put me in, like, I know it's still August, about to be September, but it put me in that, like, Halloween mood. The next book is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. However, I didn't know. I mean, I guess I didn't look into it enough, y'all. I didn't. You're supposed to read Caraval before this. I think that's the name of the book, Caraval. You're supposed to read that series before this. I mean, I didn't, and like I wasn't lost at all, but supposedly it makes the book better if you read it first. There's a PSA out there for everyone. If you're like me and you didn't know that, maybe pick up that one first. I still haven't read Caraval, so I don't know if it's good or not, but I have heard good things. So the story's about Evangeline Fox's love, her first love, is marrying her stepsister. And she's like, this can't be right. There's no way that he is marrying her. Like, he must be cursed or da-da-da-da, something else, right? So she goes and seeks out a fate. And everyone knows, like in the book at least, like you're never supposed to seek out a fate because something always goes wrong. Like, it never comes out exactly right, like your request. But she clarifies it when she meets him. It's the Prince of Hearts. They call him Jax. And when she seeks him out, she is very upfront about everything she wants, and she explains it pretty precisely. She's like, I want you to stop this wedding, but I don't want anyone to die. That's how she requested from Jax. And so he agrees to do it if she promises him 3 kisses. And she's like, okay, I'll do it, but I'm not going to kiss you. That's what was her condition for this bargain. And he accepts. So now that she's owing him 3 kisses, he abides and he stops the wedding. What she doesn't realize is that he is actually getting more out of this bargain with those 3 kisses than she ever will with her side of the bargain. That's all I'm gonna say on it. It was really good. I might pick up the next book because it does end it's not like a 1 book. There's I think 3. I'm not gonna pick it up right now. It's like not next on my TBR. It was good. I really liked it. I would say like 4 out of 5 stars, maybe 3.5. If you're into that type of plot, you know, like kind of fairy tale-esque plot, I think you should check it out. The next book I listened to, I read an audiobook on Libby called Collision. It's by Kristen Granada, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. This is the thing with me in audiobooks. It's not on purpose, but I always think I'm gonna rate them lower because it's just not the same reading it. Like, I'm just listening to it as I drive, I'm listening to it as I walk. Like, I'm not really fully encompassed in the book. Like, it's not just me sitting focusing on the words, you know? So it doesn't have that full impact because I'm not fully immersed in the book, you know? This book is about a girl named Merritt, and she's always been a very independent girl because her mother left her, and her father has always struggled with mental illness. After her father passes away, she struggles immensely, and after the funeral, she leaves and she gets in a car wreck. And somehow, she doesn't know, she ends up in the hospital, and when she wakes up, they tell her, you have been in a coma. And she wakes up with like a dislocated shoulder, I think it was, but she can't drive or she can't do anything. And she's only ever relied on herself. So she doesn't know what to do. While she has her best friend there, someone surprisingly steps up as well to help her out, even though she doesn't want it. This guy is named Chase Brooks. With Chase Brooks back in town, he becomes persistent on helping her out while she can't drive. So while he's helping her, she struggles with either letting him completely in or keeping her walls up. All the while this is all happening, she is uncovering more and more about what happened the night of her accident. It was a really good book. I will say, like, the thing with the accident, like, it might be like considered a twist. It's just something I felt like I could immediately guess pretty early on. Not the exact details, but pretty close. But when it was revealed, I wasn't that surprised. I think that's why I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. But yeah, I mean, it's a cute little lovey romance. If you like the synopsis of it, like what I described, check it out. The book doesn't really have that many like ratings or reviews on Goodreads, so I am glad I read it, because I do love checking out smaller authors and books. So if you have any recommendations of smaller authors or books, please leave them down below, because I would love to check them out. The last book I picked up is also a library book, but I have it right now. It is Betting on You by Lynn Painter. After reading Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, I just had to read another one of her books. Like, I'm obsessed with her writing. I'm obsessed with the plot. Just how she writes her characters and all the stuff that happens, it just, like, she's instantly become like one of my favorite authors just from Better Than the Movies. I'm only on like page 100 of this book. However, her writing just really pulls me in, and it makes me want to read like all of her books. Like, I'm pretty early on with this book. I definitely think I'm going to finish with this before September comes. It's only the 27th. I'm just filming this early because I really think this will be the last book I finish of this month. So Betting on You by Lynn Painter is about a girl named Bailey is getting on an airplane to go live with her mother after her parents get divorced. She's really stressed out, and in this book they kind of describe her as like a goody two-shoes. Like, that's the vibe you get immediately. So she's really stressed out, all about the rules, wants to be first in line, all this type of stuff, right? Well, while she's going through security, she meets a guy named Charlie who is like the opposite of who she is. He's laid back, go with the flow, skip a line kind of guy, right? She considers him kind of like a jerk every time they like run into one another, like during her time at the airport. And then when she boards the plane, this guy, Charlie, happens to be the guy sitting next to her on this long, I think it's like a 10-hour flight. And so she puts on her earphones, she's trying to ignore him. He wants to talk, even if that means like picking on her. So after dealing with him for 10 hours, she is like, okay, I'm so glad I'll never have to see this guy ever again. Years pass, and then she sees him again at her job, and who was also a trainee but Charlie. So I'm really curious how it's all going to unfold. So far I'm getting the feeling like he's like falling for her even though he doesn't want to. I don't think like she necessarily likes him yet, where I'm at in the book, but I have the feeling like so far it's like he's like drawn to her, even though she's the epitome of like everything he hates. I don't know. I'm really curious. It's like an opposite attracts is like what I'm getting. So those are all the books that I have finished or about to finish in August. That's my little wrap up, and now let's get into my September TBR. I've been wanting to read Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton for a really long time. I just never got around to it, or got around to buying it. So I like looked it up on my library's website and I held it. I don't really know much about this book. Steph Bauer, I think is how you say her name. She read this book and like loved it, and so ever since I watched like her like rave about this book, I've been like really curious about it. So this book I'm like really excited about reading. One of my next videos is going to be reading library books that don't have, or reading books that don't have like over 5,000 reviews on Goodreads. For that video, it's gonna be 4 books each book of a different genre, but all with not that many reviews. The first one, this one's the romance book. So it's When I Think of You by Maya Ariel. I don't really know much about it. I was just like searching of small books and I saw this one, and I'll be honest, I just thought the cover looked really cute. So that made me want to pick it up, and yeah. The next genre for that video is dark academia, and I have someone squished a spider in this book, y'all, or a tick or something. Oh my god. It's like my worst nightmare. Ugh. Now I don't want to read it. I'm gonna try to power through. Maybe I'll take a tissue and I don't know. I'm definitely going to pronounce the author's name wrong, so I'm sorry about that. But it's a dark academia, and it's Never Saw Me Coming by Vera Kurian, I think is how you say. I don't know much about this book either. Books I picked out because I liked the cover, because look at that. You can't really see it because of the reflection, but I'm like obsessed with it. I think it's super cool. I love how they did the font. I think I actually chose this one too because I liked like the summary or synopsis of it, so I will let y'all know my reviews of it in the video. I told y'all after I read The Inmate, I was in like a thriller mood, so I picked up With a Kiss We Die. This is by L.R. Dorn, and I like this book because this whole book is written in like a podcast transcript type of way, and it's about two people who are suspected of a double homicide going on this true crime podcast and trying to prove their innocence. I just love that concept, so I'm really excited about this book. The last two are actually on my physical TBR. I've been telling myself 4 months to try to read these. I'm a little worried because the first one actually put me in a reading slump for like 6 months one time, because I was like, not because I read it, but because I was like, oh my god, this is embarrassing. Not because I read it, but because I was intimidated of reading it. So I just didn't read for like 6 months. The book I'm talking about is Dune by Frank Herbert. I love the movies, particularly the second one, better than the first, but I won't get into it. But because I loved the movies so much, I was like, oh, I'm really curious about the book. And I actually heard like the book's kind of different, which just, you know, as a reader, curiosity, I have to pick it up and see. So that's another on my TBR. The last book on my TBR is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, I think is how you say it. I've always heard really, really good things about this book, but maybe it's just me. But when I read a fantasy, I don't want to read like fantasy back to back with a fantasy. Like I like having like a romance book in between it. I mean, unless it's like a series. So I'm always reading a fantasy book, I feel like. And so I never really just got around to this book. It's just always been sitting on my shelf, I think for like a year at least. This book should get finished this month, but we'll see. We'll see. Besides the 2 books that I said that I am reading for a video, I'm not going to hold myself to finish those books. Those are the books I would like to finish this month, but it's not the end of the world if I don't. And I have to remind myself that too, because when I set books aside for me to read, it's hard for me to want to read them because I feel pressured to read them. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just how it is for me in my experience. So anyway, that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you get some inspiration from the books I have read or books that I want to read. Please, please, please comment down book recommendations. I always love to read books that I won't necessarily choose myself. Also, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!